At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships of Bermudan and British Registry.
The Pokemon Adventures audio drama is finally here. For right now, exclusively on Patreon. Join Red as he ventures off into the Kanto region to complete his Pokédex for Professor Oak.
This is a Pokédex, an encyclopedia of Pokemon.
Get his gym badges to battle the Elite Four.
Wow. Me? One of the greats?
And battle against the nasty Team Rocket, who is searching for a mysterious phantom Pokemon.
You know us. We're flattered.
Go to patreon.com/everypokemon to join this massive community right now to be able to listen to this new audio drama before anyone else. Again, that's patreon.com/everypokemon. Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts this week, Professor Chris G, and on the other line with me is the Origin Boy himself. We're going to tell you how we met, everybody. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing?
Are you sure we haven't told that story on the other podcast we used to do, and possibly when we started this podcast, we rehashed it?
We probably did, but you know how many years ago it's been, Doug? I think it's time that we kind of tell that story. We could tell the PG version of that story.
Well, now, wait a minute. That makes it sound like there's an R-rated version.
There is an R-rated version.
There is not.
What was on the computer in computer class, Chris?
Yeah,
nothing.
But whose computer was it on?
So, the reason we're doing this is because we're going to go over an origin story with Freed and Pikachu today. So, I can give you a small version. Me and Doug met freshman year of high school in computer class when I was looking up WrestleMania. Let's see, what WrestleMania would that have been?
19.
Yeah. WrestleMania 19. And I was watching the Miller fight, or the Miller cat fight girls on the show in computer class in the middle of class. And my computer teacher walked up behind me and was like, I don't think we're supposed to be watching that when we're in class. And I was sitting right next to Doug. Doug saw that I'm a wrestling fan, and it's just been history since. Right, Doug?
Yeah, and it was pretty much serendipity because you were watching that, and I think Judgment Day 05 was that weekend, and you're like, well, I'm buying it. And meanwhile, you live like basically down the street and around the corner.
For real. Literally walking distance.
So I was like, I might have an in here. And then I'll never forget going to your house, and you've got this, and remind you, this is 2005, so you've still got one of those big, boxy, big screen TVs, and you've got a stereo system hooked up, and WWE, they don't really do this as much anymore, but they used to start their pay-per-views with a pyro. And you were so proud of yourself. You're like, watch this. And you turned it up. and the fucking pyro blew the speaker.
Luckily, the speaker just needed to be reset. Like I must have sparked something because my dad would have been mad if I blew his brand new speakers in the living room. Could you imagine, bro?
Yeah, I mean, we would have been cursed from the jump. It's like, because I don't know if it was like a brand new setup.
Yeah, it was kind of a newer setup around then because he had just gotten that TV too.
Oh no!
Well, the TV was there for about a year prior, and then my dad wanted surround sound to make it sound like a movie theater in the living room. So he got these hooks and put the surround sound in the corners of each part of the living room. So there was like 4 corners with just massive like speakers coming out of the wall. And when that pyro hit, man, it was boom, 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 pew, 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 pew. And we were all like, uh-oh.
I was like, oh my God. First pay-per-view I've watched legally and the speakers blow. It's a sign.
It's a sign. But yeah, it was a fun day. A very, very good pay-per-view. And that's how we met, guys. I mean, it was nice. And like I said, we've been friends ever since. But yeah, we're doing 2 new episodes today. And the episodes that we are going over is Flying Pikachu, Rising Higher and Higher, or, translated from Japanese, Flying Pikachu, Soaring High. I like the Japanese one.
I mean, is there really a difference?
Not really, but it's shorter.
Yeah.
It's shorter by, it's shorter by 2 words.
Like a whole 2 seconds.
And then we're going over the Bittersweet Truth, or translated from Japanese, the Truth About Mawhip.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the English to that one.
Yeah, me too. So,
Bittersweet Truth. I mean, that sounds like an album title for a
rock band,
for a 2000s pop punk band or something.
Right. So we have both of these episodes that we are going to be going over. But Doug, how are you doing? Unbeknownst to everyone else, we are recording today in the bright early, well, we would have started in the bright early morning of Labor Day. How are you doing?
I feel cheated. I shouldn't be laboring on Labor Day. I feel cheated. No, I mean, it's good. I mean, we've got a good, an interesting, exciting week coming up. By the time you hear this, it'll probably be over, ?
Yeah, it will. They have a couple weeks before they're hearing this. So.
Yeah, so we're going to All Out on September the 8th. Or no, I'm sorry. September 7th.
But, alright. Well, these episodes were pretty fun that we're getting ready to go over, bro. Are you ready to jump on into these episodes and see what we end up feeling about them? I guess we could say afterwards, because I mean we have a good idea of how we feel, but normally at the end of these podcasts we end up swaying one way or the other. Do you think that these podcast episodes are going to be worth your 1 hour of going over?
I am really excited. I know going into this, I'm really excited to break down the first episode. I think episode 2 is going to be one of those that I'm going to have more fun breaking down than I did watching. Basically because I get your perspective.
Okay.
Because that's one of the things we don't really I mean, the most we chop up like our thoughts before we record, we might do like 5 minutes as we're getting things ready. But we don't like call each other like 2 days before and like talk for 45 minutes off mic about how we felt about these episodes, because then the episodes wouldn't feel as real.
Exactly. So.
Because we're having that breakdown discussion and then we're taking notes, and I can say, well, you said this. Do you still feel that? And I mean, that doesn't make any sense for a live breakdown kind of thing. So yeah, we kind of keep each other, not necessarily in the dark, but we just don't. I mean, every once in a while, I'll watch an episode and I'll go, I completely forgot about this part. And I feel like that happens more on Johto or the movie or something, because I'm experiencing Horizons. Like, this is my first pass.
Yeah.
So, like, anything that could happen is something I don't expect. Whereas, you know, if a cool moment happens in Johto, I'm like, I completely forgot about that, and I unlock this memory, and then I take notes, and then I go on a 15-minute tangent on the show, and we have to rush the rest of the episode.
Like right now.
Like right now, yeah.
I'm just fucking with you, bro. I'm fucking with you. All right. Are you?
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why Milo's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards Milo's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join Milo's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Ready to jump on in, bro?
Absolutely.
All right. So, let's go ahead and start this episode. So, this episode, I mean, as we do for all of these episodes now, it's kind of a talking segment, but this episode clearly starts at the tail end of last week's episode, because Liko and Roy are in Dot's room and they're like, man, we saw Pikachu fly. When it was battling, it was like in the air, and when it would fall, it would gain momentum and shoot itself back up, and it was like Pikachu was just flying.
You said Cap flew? Like, in the sky? I saw it with my own eyes, Dot! Yeah, so did I! But you know that's impossible, right? Come on, Pikachu can't fly. Yeah, it shouldn't, but... Yesterday? When Roy was battling? Are you sure? That's not ringing any bells for me. It really happened! I'm telling you, Cap is a special Pikachu who can fly! Yeah, and you'd like to solve this mystery. That's right! So when did Cap, become captain? It happened at some point before I got here. To be honest, it's always been like that, so I never really thought about it. But now it makes you wonder, right? Oh yeah, totally. I know. Let's ask Freed about it. I bet he can tell us. Great idea! Dot, you're coming with us, right? Sorry, hard pass. It's too much of a pain. Uh-huh. But to make up for it, I'm gonna hook you up.
And that's where Dot's like, you know what? This would be great for the podcast. let's go ahead and you use the Rotom Dex and go around and start interviewing people, and let's find out how they met each other. And this is when they literally barge into the main deck with Pikachu and Freed, and they're like, Pikachu, how do you fly? And they're like, fly? What's the point of this video? And Roy's like, Well, we want to know Pikachu's secret because Pikachu can fly. It looked like it was flying during the battle. And I'm going to hand this part on over to you, brother, so I don't take all the spunk of the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, and so, Freed obviously isn't, thrilled about,
being in
their origin story just kind of being out there just for content's sake. And, they got a line where they're like, well, that just makes me more curious. So, they're kind of walking around the ship and they've got Dot kind of on her phone, in conference mode. And they're like, why don't you interview the other crew members?
And see their perspective on it.
So we hear from Molly, and she's like, Cap is such a tough Pokemon, and she's like, that's about all I got for you, and she's like, I can't really give you any more information about flying. Freaking Murdoch is like, well, they don't really complain about my food, and that's all I care about. So poor Murdoch is kind of already becoming one note, and we do get a little bit more about that in the next episode.
Yes. So to be continued on that.
To be continued on that, and that's a nice little place to put a pin in. And then we get Ludlow, and he gives an answer, and I mean, his is probably the deepest answer because he talks about the bond that Cap and Freed have cultivated over the years.
I was here before this ship was flying.
Yeah, and we get that kind of explained. Like, this is like like you said at the start, this is like a super mega origins episode, because not only do we find out about Freed and Cap, but we also find out about Freed and Ludlow, and we find out about Freed's life before he became I guess a first mate, essentially. And he's like, it was Cap that was basically the driving force to, make Freed who he is today. And, he's not even looking at frickin' Roy and Liko as he's saying this. Like, he's completely focused on, his fishing, and that's, we get a brief history of the ship, and like you said about how it wasn't initially a flying ship. And
I mean, we kind of, so we end up jumping to story time with Free, because after kind of interviewing everyone kind of gets interested as to how this story was going to unfold. And they all go to the dinner table, and they sit in, and Free's like, all right, so everyone's kind of wondering how me and Pikachu met. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell this story. So he sits down, and it's story time with Freed. And we find out Freed used to be a professor, but then ended up not being very motivated anymore, and kind of feeling like he knew everything, basically. And
yeah.
And he's like, I'm in a funk. I feel like I'm too smart for my own good. There's nothing new out there. I don't really know what direction to take my life anymore. And we find out that he ended up becoming a lazy professor. And not that he was doing it on purpose, but he literally fell into a funk. And not only was he becoming lazy, his Charizard was becoming lazy as well. Because even Ludlow was like, well, what's going on with your Charizard? And Freed's like, well, this is kind of what Charizard does all day besides eating. And you see Charizard just sleeping outside of his Pokeball on this little raggedy ship that they're on. Freed, and he's fishing, and Freed ends up catching a Slowbro, which I thought was pretty cool. He flung this Slowbro back up onto the boat, and Slowbro's like, well, thank you for catching me, but you're not going to actually catch me, so I'm going to go and jump back into the water. And Freed's like, oh, what's the point of all this? And that's when he gets a call from an old friend. Doug?
Yeah, so he gets this call, and, he goes into this restaurant, and, I mean, do I say the twist because I know it, or do I beat around the bush?
No, you can say the twist.
He ends up going to meet Lico's mother.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's not really a twist because we've met the mother already in a previous episode, so we know that's Lico's mother.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So they meet up at this restaurant, and we find out that she's married and she has a kid, and that kind of blows Freed's mind because he's like,
damn, I missed my shot.
did you? Is that kind of how you read it?
A little bit, because he looked down at the ring and it was just like, oh, and you're a mom. Oh, okay.
So he's like, oh, damn, right there, that's already 2 strikes.
Double whammy.
Double whammy. He's like, and he says all the right things. He's like, that's imagine. That's imagine. Gee, many crickets. He's like, that's amazing, but he's like, I can't even imagine you being a mother.
Gotta say, never thought I'd see you here in the Paldea region.
Well, I got married and we moved over here from Kanto.
You still teaching?
Once my kid is old enough, then I'll go back to it.
You're a parent? Man, that's amazing. I couldn't even imagine that.
So why'd you quit working for that company? I figured you would have been over the moon getting paid to research Pokemon. Are you saying that you didn't like it?
Yeah, turns out I wasn't made to hole up in a lab 24/7.
Then why didn't you just do your own research?
I did, a lot of it, in fact. I mean, I am a genius Pokemon professor, after all. I know everything there is to know about Pokemon. What else was I going to learn about them?
So you're completely lost.
Huh? Not really. I decided it was time to set myself free. Who wouldn't take the time to relax a little?
Great, it's settled then. I'll see you in the morning.
Huh?
Listen to me, Freed. There's someone I'd like you to meet, especially now.
And then we go ahead and we switch to him and Charizard flying out to this specific location. And Charizard's flying and he's half asleep. I don't know how safe that was because Charizard looked like he was about to crash at any second. And Freed's on top of him going, who the hell meets up this damn early in the morning? And they end up landing right next to Lico's mom, and she's like, "Oh, thank you, bright and early, the way I'd like it." And he's like, "Yeah, what was so important?" And she's like, "Look over at the tree." And he's like, "I see a Pikachu." And he's like, "Is that why you woke me up this early?" He's like, "Girl, I feel like I know way more than what I need to know about a Pikachu." He's like, I feel like that's the Pokemon I know the most about. And then he just goes and lays down on the right. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go back to sleep right here. And all of a sudden we see Pikachu wake up, and the Pikachu that woke up, the sun's starting to come out, so it starts like twirling around in a circle, and it makes a huge like black electric tornado. And all of a sudden Charizard wakes up and is like, the hell is going on here? And then freaking Charizard pokes Freedom and is like, yo, you might want to take a look at this. And Freed's like, what could possibly, whoa. And you just see the tornado just dissipate out of the air, and out in the middle of it, in the middle of the sky, is Pikachu. And Pikachu just starts soaring towards the ground, and Freed's like, is that Pikachu flying? And Pikachu is just soaring towards the ground, and Freed runs over to Pikachu and is like, yo, is it okay if I study you? And Pikachu's like, no, I'm not about that. Just leave me alone. And Freed's like, I'm not going to leave you alone. And Pikachu goes in and just tackles the shit out of his stomach and was like, I told you to leave me alone. And he's like, well, if you think that's going to stop me, you have a long thing coming. And Lico's mom runs over and she's like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And she's like, Pikachu, did he bother you? And he's like, are you really? And she goes and sprays some potion on Pikachu's tail to kind of heal it. And Pikachu is just yelling at Lico's mom and is like, you brought this man over here. Tell him to leave and leave me alone. So we go through like a little montage of Pikachu and Freed for like the next, I take it, this was going on for like 2 weeks, because Freed was chasing Pikachu and Pikachu is like, I don't like you, leave me alone. And there will be times that Pikachu is twirling around in a circle and makes Freed dizzy, and Pikachu at one point gets hungry, so Freed brings over a whole bunch of fruit and everything for the Pikachu, and Pikachu is like, I'll take the fruit, but I still don't like you. And just starts eating away at the fruit. And then later on, we see that Pikachu and Freed meet up the following morning after the fruit, and Pikachu's like, I told you to leave, will you just leave? And just goes and headbutts him, and he's like, it's gonna take a lot more than headbutt to get me to leave. And Pikachu's like, oh yeah, and just thunder shocks the shit out of him. And he's like, yeah, I'm not used to getting thunder shocked. And Lico's mom gets back on the phone and is like, so have you found out anything about Pikachu? And he's like, not yet, but I'm still out here looking. And he's a persistent bugger. Yeah, he is. And I'm gonna hand this part over to you and not take up all the glory. But now he has set up a telescope to go and study this Pikachu to find out, how does it fly, Doug?
And, he's sitting, and like you said, he's got this whole setup, and he's doing notes. He's like, well, Pikachu clearly has tremendous leg strength, and, he uses his tail for balance, because we saw that earlier. He was kind of doing, I guess, the equivalent of Pikachu's squats.
Yep.
And he is kind of looking like Tigger,
that's exactly who I thought of during this whole entire episode, bro.
Or what's that fucking Pokemon? Is it Spoink?
Spoink?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was kind of getting those vibes as well. And he's talking about how he uses Volt Tackle, and it's like his like ace move and everything, and he's like, he's like, I think that's how he flies. And, he's looking at videos he's taken of like the charge up and the energy tornado. And
he's like, I think that's how he's doing this.
He somehow has like perfect video, like perfect vantage point of Pikachu actually going up in the tornado. And so he must have some like 8K shit that we don't even have.
Dude, Pokemon is already in the future. It was the 1990s and they were using Skype, bro.
Well, this is, you know what? You're not wrong. Friggin' 10-year-old Ash is getting to Pokemon centers and just calling up Oak whenever he wants.
Yeah.
But then, so I don't know if it was Skype, because Oak made the comment about how is it always on my dime?
Yeah, well, I guess it was some type of video calling.
Well, yeah, but it must be tied in with something, because, like, I don't know.
We'll figure that out next week.
Yeah, that's a next week discussion in between the food puns. So yeah, he's got like this perfect vantage point of the energy tornado, and he's like sending these videos over to Liko's mom, and he's kind of absent-mindedly watching them, and she's like, it's amazing that you figured this out, and this is, freaking Freed spits a little bit of game here, and he's like, well, you're the amazing one. And which is a good line. I mean, I would use that line. I'm not going to sit here. He's like, it's amazing that you kept challenging yourself, and you're a mother, and he's like, you're the true genius professor, and
you're the one that found this. Thank you for helping me. But he's like, I still haven't cracked everything yet. And then that's when it's the following morning, and he's like, I want to see Pikachu actually fly and get a close-up view. Right, Doug?
Yes. So he's like, I need to basically be here from jump. And he's kind of breaking it down. He's like, well, he doesn't battle wild Pokemon.
Nope.
And he only does the flying energy tornado once a day.
And it's at the same time every morning.
Right. Which I think is an important point to, like, underline and not lose track of throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that they limited it, because if Pikachu could just, snap his fingers and fly, then he's goddamn Superman. And
I mean, isn't he though?
Well, I mean, I suppose, but like, we're already kind of dealing with, the OG Pikachu, who was basically indestructible and whose tears could bring people back to life. And
yeah, you're not wrong on any of these.
X, Y, and Z, but I did like that they're like, well, okay, he can fly, but it's not like he cheesed and, like, stole an HM or something. Because, like, that would be, it's like, well, this Pikachu can fly, and then, you're seeing friggin' screen grabs of Freed and Pikachu flying, while Charizard just kind of sitting there going, what the fuck,
What makes me special now?
other than I can breathe fire, but as soon as that Pikachu learns flamethrower, I'm the fuck out of here.
It's coming, bro. All he has to do is terrestrialize.
Well, and that's, I'm glad you brought up terrestrialization, because, yeah, I mean, how close are we to freaking just cheat codes?
For real.
It's like, well, this is a Bulbasaur, but he knows Ice Beam.
And you're like, what, son of a bitch.
It's like I took a couple generations off.
So, Freed wakes up, and him and Charizard just fly up with Pikachu, and Pikachu's flying up, and you literally get an inside look inside of the tornado. So the tornado that Pikachu has made, he's literally climbing up the winds of the tornado. So you see him just go boom, 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 all the way up this tornado. And once he gets all the way to the tippy top of the tornado, he spins his tail around to make the tornado disappear, and then uses his tail, or its tail. Yeah, it's a boy. It's a boy Pikachu.
A male.
Cause
not that it matters.
No, not that it matters, but but it has a tip to the tail. So the tip of the tail means that it's a boy, and when it's rounded, it's a girl. So Pikachu goes up there, and it uses its tail to flap back and forth to kind of keep itself up in the sky. And Freed is like, "That's so cool, Pikachu." And Pikachu turns around in the air and gives him the thumbs up and is like, "Yeah, isn't this cool?" And then Freed's like, "How are you staying up here?" And Pikachu has that cartoon moment of, "How am I staying up here right now?" And
yeah, it's Wile E. Coyote, going over the cliff and getting stopped halfway and holding up the sign that says "Eep."
Yep. So Pikachu starts to fall towards the ground, and then Freed has to go down and catch Pikachu. And then we get the classic moment of Freed going, "Pikachu, would you like to be a partner with me and Charizard?" And Pikachu's like, "Yes, I would." And that's when Freed and Pikachu became partners. And we see that Pikachu has a regular Pokeball as well. So just a regular old red and white Pokeball.
No lightning bolt or nothing.
Nope.
And then, the last 5 minutes of this episode is kind of I should say 2 because Netflix. So yeah, the last 2 minutes of this episode is kind of whiplash because, he comes back to the ship and he's like, "I'd like to turn this into an airship."
What's so important all of a sudden? I'm up to my neck in work here.
Well, Orla, I've got a request that only your skills can make happen. I want to take the Olivine, and I want to turn it into the greatest airship in the sky.
That's ludicrous.
So, can you do it?
Oh, you know I can!
And we find out that Orla was kind of in a little bit of a funk as well, because Orla was looking for any type of excuse to get out of the job that she was currently in.
So we get a freaking sped up montage of the ship being built, to be an airship, which is kind of cool to see. I mean, it was only a couple seconds. But again, we only had 2 minutes to play with.
She used algorithms and everything, so she's a very smart woman.
And then we see a shot of Pikachu and Freed kind of looking, shock faced at what Orla was able to put together, and it's the ship as we know today. And he's like, "This ship screams bravery," and what does he say? He's like, "I'm going to call it the brave Orvaline." And
Orla is like, "You need to work on that."
And
I didn't just build this ship for it to have a stupid name. If she could say that's what she would have been saying, right, bro?
And basically, again, we're still kind of in fast forward because we have to wrap this up. And he turns to Orla and he's like, "You're a fantastic mechanic." And he's like, "Would you be, well, Orla's funny. She's like, "Thank you very much. Now pay up."
And he's like, "I don't think that I can pay you right this second, but I can give it to you in chunks."
And, Orla's like, "Well, that's, all is said and done. I don't really need it, but you owe me." And she starts walking and she gets on the ship and she's like, "Well, I'm coming with you now." And, she's like, "You're going to need a maintenance expert to make sure this thing doesn't just fall like a stone one day," which a fair thought. And like you said, this is when Orla's like, "Well, I was kind of getting bored too, so it kind of works out." and she, and Freed's like, well, I kind of like it when a plan comes together. And this is when Orla's like, so I guess that makes you captain, right? And Freed's like, oh, no. Pikachu is the captain. And he pulls out the little adorable captain's hat. And Pikachu's kind of like, I didn't envision myself as a hat person, but here we are. And he's like, Pikachu is the captain because Pikachu inspired, this whole turn of events. And Pikachu's like, well, I don't even speak English. And I tickled myself with that one. And he kind of looks at Pikachu. He's like, you're going to be Captain Pikachu from now on. And Pikachu's like, I like the sound of that. And he's like,
I mean, that in solo words, that's how we end up wrapping up the story. And that's how Liko, Roy, and everyone found out about how they met. And Liko was like, that is such a beautiful story. Oh my gosh. And she's like, so Pikachu really can fly. And then they all come into agreement that, yeah, I guess Pikachu can fly a little bit.
And, we get a funny moment of, they're kind of sitting there and they're absorbing the story, and, Freed's like, it, kind of tugs at the heartstrings, and then freaking Liko's sitting there and she blurts out, she's like, my mom was your teacher?
And he's like, yeah. And you, in solo words, you were real little, when this all transpired. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, everything is coming together full circle.
And, and in standard, Pokemon Horizons, that's kind of where we wrap up. I mean, we have a final scene of Roy and Liko and Dot with their Pokemon, and talking about how it wouldn't make sense to post the vlog because it's a lot of personal details, and
which
they haven't gotten waivers from everybody. I mean, they could probably get the Volt Tacklers, but I don't know if Liko's mom would sign off. And freaking Roy's like, I get goosebumps thinking about the bond that Cap and Freed have. And I mean, he's like, I hope that one day mine and Voikoko's relationship can be strong like that. And Liko kind of has a moment, and she's like, I know why I'm here. And she's like, it was fate. And
which it kind of is.
I mean, the whole thing, I mean, if you want to break it down at a macro level, is based on that one chance encounter. And, I kind of like, because we covered that a couple episodes back, when we thought that the arc was wrapping up because they got back to Paldea, and Liko was being cold to her father and all that.
Which we still need to bounce back to that at some point, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would imagine so, but considering that we just got to the origin story and it took freaking 18 episodes to do it,
we won't be getting to that anytime soon. I'll just say this: I'm still up to episode 40 because they haven't dubbed any more in English for right now. We still don't have a conclusion to that.
Oh, of course not.
So,
because why would we rush anything?
I know they got all the time in the world. It's Pokemon. So, but
yeah, what are you gonna do? Cancel it?
For real. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. So, good episode, right? Right, bro?
Great episode.
So,
like I say, this was the one that I was looking for. This was the one that I was looking forward to break down because I liked it. I'm looking forward to breaking down the next one because I'm interested to get your perspective. Because,
I mean, in so little words, the second episode is not going to be quite as long as this one, only because, I mean, there's an objective and there's a solution. And I guess that's the kind of the way that we can kind of break that episode down. Because the episode revolves around Murdoch and his old best friend. And
it's another origin adjacent story.
Yes.
Because it's like, okay, how did Murdoch, not so much how did Murdoch get on the ship, we didn't get that, but like, what made Murdoch Murdoch? Mm-hmm. And, you know, we kind of got that here, and we touched on a element of Pokemon
evolution,
like evolution. Thank you, Jesus Christ. That I'm somewhat familiar with, and I would love to get your perspective because I feel like you're still kind of plugged into it. So I would love to kind of expand on it when we hit that part in the episode.
Okay. Absolutely. So you ready to jump on into the Bittersweet Truth, episode 19 of Pokemon Horizons?
Absolutely. Great name, if I didn't already say that.
So, all right. So we go ahead and we start this episode. I'm going to go ahead. I love Netflix for the skip recap button. But yeah, we started off with Alchemy putting in all of the sweets into the coffee, and we end up landing in the Galar region. So we finally get here, and Murdoch agrees to go with Liko and Roy out into the city so that they can go and get some more supplies.
Liko and Roy.
Hey, Murdoch!
If you've got some time, you want to go shopping in the city with me? I'm looking for food you can only get in Galar.
That sounds great! Yeah, I'm game!
That look on someone's face when they're digging into something delicious? That's the kind of thing I live for.
Maybe I can get some info on the Black Rayquaza.
Yo, be sure to swing by the Battle Cafe.
The Battle Cafe?
They make something called Swirlicious cotton candy that's supposed to be amazing.
Cotton candy, huh? Do you want us to get you some?
Yeah, it's supposed to be soft and fluffy like a Swirlix. I've got an idea to use it as a prop in a new video.
Neato thing and cotton candy? That'll be so cute!
And hey, cafes tend to have a lot of people. You could ask around about Rayquaza.
Now we're talking!
So Murdoch walks over there with them, and they take the nice little elevator up, which is in the video game as well. They go into the stores that's in the video game, and they're like, okay, so let's go ahead and get this. And they're like, oh, they got a curry lunch buffet. He's like, you know what? We can go ahead and sit down and we can grab some lunch while we're here. And that's when you see a Pokemon battle going on. That's over here, and the winner is announced that they get a cotton candy Swirlix. And then this is where Murdoch is like, is that who I think it is? And he's looking over and he's like, that can't be. And he's just looking, he's looking. And Liko is like, she's like, man, this is so cool. She's like, I think we should go over there and get one of these. And Murdoch's not listening to anything that's being said because he's enticed as to what's going on. And they're like, oh, this is called the Battle Cafe. And I'm not going to steal all your spunk, bro, so I'll let you take it from here.
I don't want you anywhere near my spunk. No offense. And I don't like you saying spunk, especially after we saw Alchemy put that stuff in the coffee. For goodness sakes. And friggin' the guy comes over and he's like Murdoch, and Murdoch's like Mitchell, and of course his frickin' name is Mitchell. Doesn't he just look like a Mitchell? He looks like a Mitchell. And, like they're super cold to each other. And then Roy he's got like no social tact. He's like, do you guys know each other? He's all fucking like, no shit. And Alchemy kind of looks up and is kind of like, oh, old friend, kind of thing. And like,
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai-iced coffee-flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
A little bit of, like, wonder in her eyes, and,
I don't think they're old friends. Well, they are. They are, but they're not.
And Mitchell kind of has a moment. He's kind of, forget this. And Alchemy kind of takes that as a personal slight and gets its feelings hurt. And, they're like not looking at each other. And Mitchell's like, oh, what brings you to my neck of the woods? And Murdoch's like, Dot wants some cotton candy. And
to what do I owe the honor of your presence?
My niece asked me if I could bring her some cotton candy from here.
I suppose that makes sense. Alas, I have no intention of battling you.
So, Chef Mitchell and Alchemy, do they know each other from somewhere, or?
Yeah, they do. You see, Alchemy and I, we used to work with Chef Mitchell.
Oh, then I'm sure if we asked nicely, he'd be willing to battle us and—
No! We all made such a great team, but, well, that is all ancient history now. No way am I getting tangled up with him again. Ever.
He goes to walk away, and,
Liko really wants a battle.
And yeah, and she's like, so, yeah. She basically just sits Murdoch down and is like, so y'all know each other, and, we're here, and he just turned us down just because of your past. I'm gonna need to know what's going on here.
Because I promised Dot this cotton candy, and I'm not gonna return empty-handed.
And quite frankly, I could use the battle experience anyway. And Murdoch's like, oh God, I really wasn't trying to open this up, and and he's like, but I used to work with him, and we were pastry chefs, and then
one thing led to another, and we became sworn enemies. No, that's not how. They were real good friends, and at the time, Murdoch had what was a milcery.
A milcery, yes.
Yes. So he had a milcery, and they were best friends, but they were always kind of competing as to who has the better recipes inside of their bakery. And one day, Milcery evolved into alchemy, and Murdoch's career kind of just took off from there because alchemy's cream was very, very popular. So
it blended well with Murdoch's desserts,
yes,
as opposed to the desserts that Mitchell was making.
Yes. And Mitchell still had a very good dessert, but it wasn't quite as popular. So Murdoch starts telling the story that Mitchell started becoming somewhat envious and jealous, but he was so blinded by his success that he didn't notice it right away. So
because his desserts were flying off the shelves, whereas Mitchell's desserts were, they were selling, but it was more of a trickle.
Yes. So it came head to head at one point where one day Alchemy made a nice little graham cracker dessert for Murdoch and Mitchell, and Alchemy, being really nice, was walking over to Mitchell to give him his piece, and Mitchell goes and slaps the graham cracker out of Alchemy's hand, and it goes and falls onto the ground and just crumbles, which makes Murdoch go into a frenzy.
Mitchell, what do you think you're doing? You all right, Alchemy? I thought you were better than that, Mitchell.
Well, I am better than you, and I'm never making sweets with either of you again!
I'm glad we agree on something. A chef who would slap away sweets doesn't deserve to make sweets. Let's go, Alchemy.
And then, Murdoch does the thing that I feel like we all kind of do. And he's like, oh, I didn't mean to unload that on you, but
it's the truth as to what happened.
And then, Liko has to be the adult, and she's like, I'm glad that you were able to share that with us. And she kind of looks over and she sees that Mitchell has been standing in the back, and he's kind of been given their table the side eye, so it's kind of implied that Mitchell might have heard the entire spiel.
Yeah.
And Liko, it's like he was just looking over this way. And, we kind of look over and we see that Alchemy is still kind of taking in the story and kind of remembering everything, and so, reacting as you would expect her to react, because that poor Pokemon is all about its feeling.
Yeah. And he also agrees to give Liko and Roy a nice tour of the facility. And as they're going through the facility, Liko's like, well, I really want to get one of those cotton candies. What can we do to get one of those cotton candies? He's like, I want to battle you. And Mitchell's like, you know what? I can't not battle you because of my past with Mitchell. I mean, not Mitchell, with Murdoch. And you know what? I will go ahead and battle you, but I just want to let you know I am a little tough. And Liko had enough nerve to say, but you got beat really easily this morning. And he's like,
he's like on the defense. He's like, my morning battles are my easy battles.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, that, are my easy battles, and they're my treat to my customers. But for you need to earn this. So, they're like, okay, then let's go ahead and let's battle. And then that's when, it's Liko and Murdoch that ends up battling against Mitchell in a tag team battle. But it's Mitchell's using two of his Pokemon, and Murdoch and Liko are using Sprigatito and Alchemy. in the battle. So at this point, we end up finding out that that Mitchell has a Slurpuff and an Appleton, and they just start Pokemon battling at this point. And surprisingly, Liko and Murdoch, they make a really, really good team, don't you think, bro?
Yeah, they were working. They were working in tandem. I mean, not as much as Mitchell's Pokemon, but there was some chemistry there for sure.
So as they're Pokemon battling, it ends up coming out that Alchemy is also helping Murdoch make a dessert in the middle of a Pokemon battle. And
it becomes and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I made note of this because like you said, in the exact middle of a Pokemon battle, we basically had the Great Pokemon Bake Off or something.
Yeah.
And I think at one point, one of them even says, "Is this still a battle?"
So, the Pokemon battle ends up turning into a food battle, and Murdoch and Mitchell are over here making dessert instead of actually battling anymore. And in the midst of this, freaking Roy's over here just chowing down, just eating. And Sprigatito's helping out as well by putting some of the leaves on some of the desserts. And long behold, Mitchell and Murdoch seem like they're becoming friends again. Doug?
Yeah, they're kind of, putting all this behind them, and they're kind of seeing that, they still work well together, and, they apologize for the way, things went down, and, Mitchell's like, your success, was a bit surprising to me, but I shouldn't have taken it out on you. And Murdoch's like, I didn't have the best reaction either.
I just stormed off and left.
He looks at Murdoch and Alchemy, because at one point he gets up and walks away, and you think, oh, Mitchell's not listening. He's not gonna take any of this to heart. But he comes back out and he's like, I've been working on this secret menu matcha cake, and it's missing just one last ingredient. And I think if Alchemy was willing, I think that would be the perfect complement. So Alchemy is like over the moon, and she produces like the perfect dollop, and she's like, and it's like, it's perfect. And, they kind of talk about, when Alchemy evolved, and, and Mitchell apologizes, and he presents Murdoch with the cake, and Murdoch's, he takes one giant bite and,
almost loses
it. I mean, you can see that they're both fighting back tears, and then, let's talk about how good the cake is. And, Murdoch says, Mitchell was always a great baker, and, they both apologize and they embrace, and they just start freaking bawling to the point where it's cartoon waterworks. It's just like a freaking somebody busted a hydrant.
But they're friends again.
They talk about, well, I guess it's good that adults can show emotion. We pan over, and unbeknownst to anybody, and I mean anybody, this town's gym leader has been sitting there this whole time.
Just watching.
And Mitchell's like, oh, Kobu, I didn't realize you were sitting there. And he literally says, they literally say, "Are you the gym leader?" He stands up, says, "Indeed I am," and that's where they end the episode.
Yep. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Don't
like,
you love it?
The last 2 episodes, like, I don't know if they were running up against time or what.
I think all of these episodes, low-key, were all like one big chunk, and then they just find a spot to end it, and they just chop it.
Like, oh, that works. I mean, they're kind of come back anyway.
But, yep, that was it.
That was it.
So what did you think, Doug? I'm going to let you go through your ratings first this week.
I feel like this always happens. I have a high opinion of one episode, and then on the episode that I'm not too sure about, I always feel differently, by the time we're done reviewing it. Separately, I would probably say the first episode was an easy 4.
I can agree with you on that.
And then, the second episode, I mean, pre-review, I would probably say 2.5 to 3, just because it didn't really jive with me, but in kind of sitting here and breaking it down and kind of picking in the story beats as they were happening, I'm confident enough to bump it up to like 3.5.
Okay. You know what?
I mean,
I can agree with you with both of these, bro.
Because we did get a battle, quote unquote. I mean, like we said, it kind of broke down into a Pokemon bake-off. But, and we don't even know if they got their cotton candy.
They did. You can assume that they got that cotton candy.
But I will say that I'm intrigued about, where the next episode goes for sure. Because, are we actually going to finally get an honest-to-God, gym battle? Is some progress actually going to be made?
Oh, the possibilities. I know where we're going, but I don't want to.
Well, I know you do, because you're on episode 40. But...
So, yeah, we'll find out next week, but yeah, that was a good 2 episodes for this week, and we got two good ones next week as well. So we'll get right on into that pretty soon. Anything else that you want to add for this week, bro?
No, just another like you said, another 2 good episodes. We got some explanations about how the Rising Volt Tacklers got to be, and we got some breadcrumbs about some things in the future, because you got to figure.
No puns intended.
No puns intended. But you got to figure Liko mom's going to come at some point.
Yeah, she might.
Hopefully you hear from the dad, and hopefully he's not just in his freaking man cave painting.
Remember, we're in search of the grandma, and the grandma's.
That's right. That's right. We're still looking for the grandma. We haven't heard from the explorers in a minute.
Things will be spicing up pretty soon. Hey, and isn't it a breath of fresh air that we don't need Team Rocket in every single episode, like in the beginning? Like the bad guys are not in every single episode, and even when they're not in every single episode, they're not needed.
No, because they 100% would have either tried to mess up the battle, or they would have tried to steal the cotton candy.
Yep.
100%. So yes, I'm excited for this next couple episodes. And I think that's all you can ask for when you're breaking down, 2-3 episodes at a time.
All right. Well, that being said, say goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you we will see you again next week for a brand new episode. Have a good night, everyone.